I truly had no idea what this was going to look like. Hey babes, welcome to Codependency Alchemy, the podcast. I'm your host, Alyssa, and we are celebrating our 1-year anniversary on the podcast today. I cannot believe that I launched this podcast exactly 1 year ago, and I truly had no idea what this was going to look like. I had no idea how this was all going to turn out. I knew I had a passion, a mission, a hope, a dream for what this podcast could be. But girl, let me tell you, it has surpassed my wildest dreams. And I've never been more inspired, more excited, more determined to continue doing this work with you all here. I know this is making an impact in your lives because you are all so generous in sharing with me your experiences, sharing with me how the podcast is changing your relationships, how my personal shares of how I'm navigating the messiness of being in a healthy relationship and really taking personal responsibility for the way I respond to it, how it has given you practical tools and solutions and ways to do things in your own relationship, and you're seeing the positive outcomes of it already. Like, that is beyond what I could have hoped for. Of course I wanted that. Of course I wanted that for you guys. And that's why I created the podcast, because I remember just feeling so isolated and alone in my experience and not knowing which way to turn, not knowing solutions, not knowing that there was a complete other way to do things. Like, I really had to trial and error and make a load of mistakes over and over and over again, read so many books, and just I never actually went to therapy. That was actually a question that came in. I didn't have the means to go to therapy, and I think therapists are amazing, and I think that we should, if we have access to it, we should absolutely take that in. But a lot of what I've learned has just been in my own personal experience, and I know that I'm not the only one who doesn't have easy access to therapy, for example. And I wanted to create the podcast to be a place where people can still get support, where it's not this wisdom or knowledge or information that's being, gatekept, and it's been doing that. It's been giving you guys access to these tools. It's supporting you guys in this journey, and I'm excited to do this for longer. Like, we're 1 year in, but this is just the beginning. So in this episode, I'm really just going to share some of the huge wins that we've had this last year. I'm going to share a little bit about the future of the podcast. I'm going to share a little bit about what I'm moving through as someone who continues to embark on this with you, the ways that you can continue this work, the ways that we can be in a room together. I really want to use this episode as a season 2 finale, sharing the huge work that we've been doing at Cultivating Community and where we're going to be going with season 3. All right, so I've got my computer here, and I am going to share with you all the numbers that we had from April 5th, which is when I launched the podcast. The first episodes came out on April 5th, 2023. And by December 31st, so this is just last year, 2023, we had 29,000 downloads. 29,000 downloads. Now, someone has asked me, what's the difference between downloads and listens? I Don't know. I don't know the answer to that, but I know when I listen to podcasts, I don't always download the episodes. I will just listen to them. So I think that's the difference. If you don't download the podcast, but you want to support the podcast and getting out and reaching more people, that is a huge way to support me in growing the podcast, is just hitting that download button. On Spotify, it's like a little green button. Anyways, I know that this helps remind you when a new podcast episode comes out. So that could be really helpful as well. So in 2023, we had 29,000 downloads, and I was so grateful. We had grown every single month really like dramatically. So for the first month to the second month, we almost doubled downloads. It was like just from April to May, twice as many people downloaded the podcast. And then it kind of stayed there for a little bit, for a few months, until August, when it doubled again. And then from August to November, it was just thousands more every single month. It just kept doubling and doubling and doubling. In December, I changed a few things. I went from bi-weekly podcast episodes to weekly, and we're in December. So I think that, we're with our families. It's the holidays. We're at capacity. I just don't think as many people were listening during that time, rightfully so. But now let me tell you guys what happened January. So we'll do January 1st to today when I'm recording the podcast, which is the end of March. We have had 58,000 downloads in just these last 3 months, in just Q1. If you don't know what Q1 is, people do quarterly goals and such for business. Q1 is January, February, March. So just in Q1, not including last year's 29,000 downloads, we've had 58,000 downloads. We have like doubled the amount of downloads that we had all of last year in just these first 3 months of the year. And to say that I have been crying like tears of gratitude and joy is an understatement. Like, I am overwhelmed with the amount of feedback and messages I get from you guys on the daily. Please do not stop. If you ever feel called to reach out to me and let me know how the podcast is supporting you, this is why I do this. This lights me up. I love knowing that this work is something that is supporting you and being witnessed in it, right? Like, I know that being seen and heard for me in my journey was so healing for me. And it would be an honor, and it is an honor to be that for you all, even if you don't reach out to me, right? Like, I truly do hope that the podcast and Substack, the membership, continues to be a place where you feel seen, where you feel heard, where you feel validated in your experience. And not only that, but that you leave knowing that there is another way of relating, that there is another way of showing up in your life and in your relationships that actually fosters more trust, intimacy, love, compassion, joy, and we're doing it together. And I think that's so fucking powerful. For those of you who are, new on this journey with me, because it shows there's a lot of new people here, my soul's mission is to heal the mother wound. My life's purpose is to heal the mother wound. And when I think about the mother wound, it is when we are healing from these patterns and stories or limiting beliefs that say we have to do things alone, where we have to compare ourselves to others. There's a lot of judgment of others and judgment of self. The mother wound says, I have to be everything for everyone and do it all alone. Healing the mother wound is saying, I actually get to have support in this. Healing the mother wound actually says, I am not better or worse than the person standing next to me. Healing the mother wound means you understand and you know and you realize that your feelings and emotions are equally as important as another's. And for me, I really saw how codependency and the mother wound were one and the same. Codependency is when you place your good feelings about yourself on someone or something outside of you. That's why when someone else is experiencing discomfort, we experience discomfort. We're making their discomfort mean something about us. And it's usually, you guys, it's usually about our safety. If this isn't okay, if this person isn't happy, if I don't have this, then I'm not safe. And so the work that I do in the membership and with you guys here on the podcast and in my content on social media is reminding ourselves how to get to that part of us that is afraid of not being safe and reparenting that part of ourselves so that we are not dependent on someone or something outside of us to provide us with our safety. This work of stepping into our fullest expression of self is rooted in safety. It is rooted in self-trust. And how we build that safety and that self-trust with ourselves is by reclaiming all of the parts of us that we left along the way, usually in childhood, but not only. Letting those parts of us be seen and reminding them that we're not in that situation anymore. We're not in that environment anymore. You guys, I'm coming back from this amazing speaking event that I got to have recently at Alt Summit, which was in Palm Springs. It was a summit for women, female entrepreneurs, and I got to talk about codependency in business because, like I said, codependency shows up everywhere, right? And if you're in business, our business is literally a relationship with the deepest, darkest parts of ourselves. And it was so amazing to see how quickly we were able to access a core wound or a part of them that was really running the show, that was saying, I can't step into my fullest expression of self. I can't put myself out there more. I can't do this thing I really want to do because if I do, some examples were, well, then I'll be successful. And what happens if you're successful? Well, then things are good. Okay, and then things are good. Well, what does that mean? Well, then that will mean things are peaceful and happy. And I know it's such a like mind fuck for us, right? It's like, yeah, why wouldn't I want success, happiness, joy, peace? Well, let me tell you why. Because a part of us has a nervous system that has normalized chaos. This is why in relationships, right, when things are really good, we find something to fucking complain or nitpick about. Because our body is saying, things aren't feeling anxious at all. Things aren't feeling chaotic at all. Things are feeling really peaceful and easeful right now. So that's not safe. Let me cause some chaos. That's why self-sabotaging happens, right? Because our body doesn't feel safe in peace. Our body doesn't feel safe in happiness or in joy or in ease. So what we get to do is we get to grow our capacity, or it's also known as like your window of tolerance. We get to grow our capacity for holding that peace. How do we do that, Alyssa? We do that by creating awareness, right? I know that this part of me exists. So when I start wanting to nitpick, or when I start wanting to complain, or when I want to start catastrophizing things in my relationship or in my business, I remind myself, Alyssa, is this really a catastrophe, or are you creating a problem out of something because you don't feel safe in how good everything feels? And does that get me literally almost every time? It's like, yeah, fuck. I just don't know how to exist if there aren't problems. If there are not problems, I do not know what to do with my life. But wow, isn't that what we get to step into? Isn't that what we get to model for future generations? We're not just good for problem solving and fixing things for people and being everything for everyone, that we're actually worthy of the joy and the peace and the ease that we experience in our life, that we get to experience in our life. So I really want to say thank you all for being here and for letting me speak these truths to you. These are my truths, and if they feel like your truths, then I'm so glad that we've found each other and that we get to build this community together. That is my hope and that is my goal. And that's what I've created with the Substack membership, which is really taking the things that we talk about here on the podcast, but amplifying it in the membership. If you don't get my Substack newsletter, please just pause this for a second. The link to subscribe to the newsletter, it's free to subscribe to the newsletter. It's going to give you so many resources. And I just planned out Q2 and the newsletters that are going to be coming out in the next few months. And it's going to be a library of resources that you will definitely want to continue to revisit or share with other people who you know are struggling. Like, my goal and my hope is that we aren't sitting here like sharing screenshots of texts between guys that are, emotionally unavailable and hyper analyzing it in a way that it just makes us feel disempowered. My hope is that you get to have these resources so that you can remember just how fucking deserving you are of a relationship that is not like the ones that we've been entertaining for the last couple generations. We have to see how we are just as much at fault as the people who are, ghosting us, etc., because we've accepted it. We continue to go back. We've allowed people to mistreat us. We've allowed people to talk down to us. We've allowed people to manipulate us. We have to see that we are just as much at fault as they are. I'm not trying to victim blame here. And if you see this as victim blaming, I can't change your experience. But what I want to say is it's important for us to take that ownership, because if we don't, then we continue to cycle in the victim. And I just don't think we have time for that shit anymore. I refuse to be a victim of my circumstances anymore. If I want to live a radically different life, then I need to take radical personal responsibility for where I'm not allowing myself to live that life by my own thoughts and by my own actions. Is it a big responsibility? Yes. Is it uncomfortable as fuck? Abso-fucking-lutely it is. Do I love it? Most days, no. But other days, absolutely. Absolutely, I love it. And it's worth it. Anyways, I'm going on another tangent. But yes, please join the Substack newsletter. There's going to be a library of resources coming out over the next few months that I really think are going to help support us in just anchoring even more deeply into this, knowing that we are just as deserving as anyone else to have that peace and that joy and that ease in our life and in our relationships. Now, the newsletter is free. However, also on Substack, I host the membership. So it's Codependency Alchemy. The membership, it's $9 a month or $90 for the year. And this membership has taken many, many different forms. It has looked a number of different ways. And I finally feel like I've landed on the platform that can really hold this community in a way that is nourishing, in a way that is supportive, in a way that is accessible to as many people as possible. And so for the membership, what you get is a monthly masterclass on Zoom. This is live. And if you can't join live, you can watch the replays. They'll be all hosted on Substack under the membership. So we get a monthly masterclass. We do a monthly meetup where I do hot seat coaching with as many people as I can. Depends on how many people join the call, of course. But I will move you through the prompts that help support you in getting to the root of some of your patterns, or help give you a lens, perspective, guidance on whatever your current situation is. I think these monthly meetups are really powerful because you get to have language. And what I mean by language is like you get to hear how some of these conversations can look and sound. And I think for me, that has always been super supportive. Like, what does a conversation like that look like? What does a conversation like that sound like? And then taking that into my relationship so that I could practice that. We also have monthly AMA chats, which AMA means Ask Me Anything. And these AMA chats, we had our first one in March. It went so well. I basically start a thread for paid subscribers. Paid subscribers is synonymous with members in the membership. And you get to ask me anything that you're working on, anything that you're moving through, anything that you're stuck on, advice on a current situation that you're in. And I'm available to you for a few hours where we can go back and forth, or you can just simply ask your question and I'll leave a response. But I went back and forth with some women who were asking questions in the AMA chat, and it was so freaking powerful. I was like, this is such a neat idea, and I'm so glad that it was suggested. And I'm looking forward to continuing to do that every month in the membership. My intention for Q2 is just to continue to pour into the membership. I'm really excited for the masterclasses that are going to be coming up. And even more so than that, just seeing how the community starts to grow. A lot of you have joined the waitlist for the mastermind. The mastermind will be launching this month, but we start in May. There are only 6 spots available. So if you're not on the waitlist, definitely go to the show notes as well to join the waitlist so that you have first dibs on those spots. They're first come, first serve. And like I said, we start that in May, but I'll be opening the doors for that in April. The difference between the mastermind and the membership is going to be intimacy and one-on-one time in a container with me or in a group space with me. The membership, I'll see you a few times a month on our monthly calls. However, in the mastermind, we have 3 monthly calls where we meet together on Zoom, and you have a private chat with me, meaning you are in a group chat with me and 6 women, and you have access to me at all times. So if you're struggling with a situation with your partner, or if you're having a hard time with your child, or things are just kind of crazy and chaotic, the mastermind is a great opportunity for you to receive support in real time. In these mastermind spaces, I have seen the most growth in the shortest amount of time, and I truly attest it to having that private group chat, because you are so ready and primed for a change or a shift when you're able to ask these questions in real time and apply them. And so I think that it's just really powerful. It's a really neat space. If you're like, you know what, I'm ready to do the work. I'm ready to get dirty. I'm ready to like put in the work and see results. The mastermind's going to be a great option for that. I only offer it a couple times a year. So if you feel like that's for you, definitely make sure you join the waitlist, and you'll get more info on that coming soon. Okay, so now you should have all the information for the ways that we can continue to work together, the ways that you can continue to receive support. There's the free Substack newsletter if that's where you're at. There's the $9 a month membership if you want more one-on-one support and join me and a bunch of other women on calls for healing codependent patterns and learning new ways of relating. And then if you really want to take it that next level and have me in your pocket at all times, there's the mastermind. These are the 3 ways that you can work with me. Of course, also joining me on social media. You can follow me on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube. If you don't know already, this podcast is a video podcast. So if you ever want to watch me sitting on my couch or watch Frank, my dog, move around and huff and gruff over here sometimes, then definitely check out the video podcast on YouTube and make sure you subscribe as well. And now I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about what the podcast will look like moving forward going into season 3. So for April, we are going to take a break. We're going to do a podcast break, and you'll just not be getting podcast episodes, but I will be doing a lot of work on my end to set us all up for an amazing season 3, which will begin the first week of May. If you want to have a say in what podcast episodes are going to be making their way to the podcast, make sure you join the broadcast channel on Instagram. I will be putting out a question box so you can submit your questions and possibly be featured on the podcast. So while we're on our little breaky poo from the podcast, ways that you can support it are by leaving a review or leaving a rating. This is so supportive in helping other people who don't follow me on social media find the podcast and just gets it out to more people. It's one of the huge reasons why we hit top 50 charts on Spotify and Apple, which, oh my gosh, I didn't tell you guys. Holy heckin' Bob, how freaking amazing is that? We hit top 50 charts in society and culture on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. At one point, we were even top 25. And I truly believe that we can keep this going. So ways that we can keep this going is by you sharing it, by you sharing the podcast with your loved ones, with friends, with family, sharing it on your socials, making sure if you share it on social, tag me because I would love to repost it. You can, like I said, leave a rating or a review and download the podcast if you haven't downloaded the episodes already. So if you're one of those people that is like me, honestly, so if you are, it's totally fine, like no worries. But if you're looking for ways to support, you can just hit that little download this podcast button so that you get notified when new podcasts come out, which you might want to do because you'll want to know when season 3 comes out. So hit that download button, subscribe to the podcast so that you get notified when the new episode and the new season comes out. Again, I want to thank you all so freaking much for being on this journey with me. Like I said earlier, this is literally just the beginning. It feels like just the beginning for us. And I'm really, really excited to see how our community and this space continues to grow. Something is also dropping in before I hop off, and that is my book, Healing the Mother Wound with Mother Earth. I just had a person who I've had the privilege of working with for a long time. She just messaged me saying how the book has just been so healing and transformational for her, and to make sure I share it with you guys. And so I'm going to take her advice and remind you all, for those of you who don't know, that I have a book, that I've authored a book, I've published a book. It's so wild. Healing the Mother Wound with Mother Earth is a book of poetry that moves us through a journey of distortion to divinity and destiny. And it's just such a salve for me when I need help or when I need support. I almost use it as like an oracle, meaning I'll take the book and I'll be like, what medicine am I meant to have, or what medicine am I meant to receive today, right now in this situation? And I'll open it and it's always like the exact words that I need to hear. So even though you can absolutely read it front and back, I know most people use it in that way of like just using it as an oracle. So if you're looking to buy the book, I'll also leave the links to purchase it in the show notes or the description box below. You absolutely can buy it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and those like major book retailers. I, as a creator and someone who's self-published, make very little from those sales. I make like $1, but I know that, yes, you heard me right, I make $1 from those sales, which is just like bonkers to me. But I know that it is a easy way for it to get overseas and to get across the world. So I'm happy that it's there, and I'm super grateful for it to be an option for people. If you have the option to buy it through BookBaby, which is who I self-published through, I get 50% of those purchases. So it really helps me as a small creator if that feels like something that you can do. So those are your options. Definitely buy the book if you haven't already. It is such a sweet addition to my life. And yeah, just want to share that with you guys too. So I will be gone for a month, but I will be coming back. If you want to stay connected, make sure you're following me on Instagram because I post there pretty much every day and will continue to do so. So Until season 3, babes, this is a close. Thank you for an amazing freaking season 2. I know it's only going to go up from here. I'm so excited to climb those charts with you guys. And thank you for the immense support and the love and the shares that you allow me to witness you in. Until next time, babes, I'll see you soon. Bye.